everyone. I'm Kareem Rae, your host at the One Soccer Nation podcast. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Josh Beers. Josh has coached for over 3 decades in the beautiful game, all the way from the high school level, college, and club level. Josh, thanks for taking the time for joining me today on the One Soccer Nation podcast. How you doing?
It's an honor to be here with you, Kareem, and love talking soccer and love the work you're doing.
Absolutely. So I want to just take it back a little bit to how we connected. We connected through David. I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm going to have you say it. I know you and David have been friends for a while. David
Vassilaros.
So I recently connected to him a few weeks ago. We were talking about the beautiful game, and he said, "Hey, if you want to learn more about what I'm doing in my podcast," he sent me over a podcast, and it was you and him. He was interviewing you, and a lot of the things that you were saying, how passionate you were speaking on the beautiful game, really resonated with me, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on today. So just wanted to share that quick story. But how did you get involved in the beautiful game?
So it started for me as a kid growing up, like a lot of people do, with a ball, and fell in love with the game. Loved just to play, and I was competitive and got the opportunity to start playing at a young age. And pretty quickly in my teenage years, I knew I wasn't going to be good enough to go. I played at Division III level at college, knew I wasn't going to be playing professionally, but fell in love with teaching the game and coaching kids. And that's really the influence of a college coach really shaped my life to not only coach the beautiful game, but to coach kids for life through the game.
Absolutely. So why coaching though? It could have been an agent, a scout, something else within the beautiful game, but you chose coaching. Why was that?
I think for me, there's a personal drive in me that I'm wired for relationships, but I really want to make a difference in kids' lives. And so for me, it wasn't a career path to climb. It was, where can I make an impact on people's lives the most? And there are people who can do that as an agent or as a manager or whatever that might look like. For me, it was, how do I get life on life in the lives of kids to, the beautiful game. There's no better influence to me than that coach or manager who's investing into their life. And so that was aligned with the gifts that God had given me, and wanted to use that in a way that was going to make a difference that lasted long beyond the last time they kicked the ball.
Absolutely. You mentioned God. You're really big in your faith, and you apply that to your coaching. I don't know if method would be an appropriate word to say, but you apply that to your coaching, and it's really impactful, and it really hits you in the chest. Well, it did for me. So how do you apply faith into your coaching, and why do you apply it?
So I really appreciate that question, Kareem. For me, it's a part of who I am. I think the best coaches lead with authenticity. So if my faith and my relationship to God is core to who I am, I want to be sensitive to people who might come from a different perspective in life, but I also want to lead authentically out of who I am. And my relationship with God drives me to love people more. I know there's a lot of things that are broken in the world today. And so for me, and I think there's a lot of people who misuse their faith or have given religion or a relationship with God a wrong reputation. And my desire is that's not really at the heart of, for me as a Christian, what it's supposed to look like. So living that faith out to say, I'm going to care about you as a person. I'm going to care about you as a player. I'm going to push you to be the very best you can be. That's at the core of my faith. And so it just runs together in my heart. And I try to be very sensitive, because there are absolutely amazing young men and women who I've coached who that's not core to who they are. And it's a joy to love them where they are in their path of discovering who they're meant to be. And so I hope that makes sense of just that collision course of loving people where they are is essential to my faith. And so it's essential then to my coaching.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I'm not really very super religious, but it definitely hit me in my chest when you were speaking. And, through my personal experience of as a player being coached by different coaches, I've never had that experience in regards to faith being a part of that. It was really a winning mentality. You go out there and we're going to play to win and be the best. And that was my experience coming up and playing. And, even though my coaches still really cared about me, but it was that winning attitude. And I think you and David, you guys spoke about it a lot on the KidFirst podcast, where David really focuses on kids first, being there for the kids first, and it's not about winning. It's about how you're impacting that child. And um, I think that's so important because, um, as a child growing up, you want to have the best experience growing up, so that you can become the best person. So it's not just about soccer. We know that the big dream, the big goal is to make those big dollars, be on the big stages, so on and so forth. But there's only so many players that can make it. We're talking about the 1% or less. And as I'm a 23-year-old now, growing up, my dream was always to go pro. But now knowing the facts of what the reality is, it's like I've also heard towards like that, when I was around 18, 19, that like it's not just about soccer. So how do you prepare the young people of the within the US to, yes, you want to go pro, but there's more to life than just going pro, and who are you as a person?
Yeah. And I think part of that is the quicker we demonstrate to kids that we care about them beyond the game, the quicker we can get to those hard lessons of life. And so if I care about you as a player and I'm pushing you and I'm helping you to become the best you can be as a player, because obviously that's going to give me credibility with you as well. Then when I start to speak into your life to say, hey, there's something more, or there's something beyond this, or let's define reality as somebody did in my life, you're not going to be good enough to play at that next level. But here are all the lessons you can take from the game that may make you incredibly successful at the next level. What a gift a coach can give at any age level to define reality in a way that says, I love you, and that's why I'm pushing you. But your success is not determined by whether you have that incredible finish in that game, or you help us win a championship, or you get that scholarship, or you sign that professional contract. It's more than that. That's a byproduct of you becoming the best Kareem Rae you can become, or the best Josh Beers you can become.
Absolutely. With saying that, not every coach has that mentality that you had. Where did your mentality come from, and how can other coaches be influenced by this um, positive perspective into coaching the young people? Because not everyone has the same mentality that you have, and it could really impact the kids in, per se, a negative aspect. I've heard from Skip Gilbert. I've had him on the podcast. He's U.S. Youth Soccer CEO, and he dropped the number in regard. It was a high number. I'm not going to say the numbers because I don't remember the facts, but it was a lot of young athletes dropping out, and I was like, wow, right? So how can we influence other coaches, and is there anything that you're doing to help coaches change their perspective of, yeah, winning is important, but look, we need to impact the kids in a positive way?
Well, one thing you said so well, and you just have incredible wisdom for the season of life you're in, because a lot of people I meet in their 20s don't have the insight that you have on it. But one of them is simply that it starts with us as adults, and there's too many adults trying to live out something through kids, and that's not fair. My job is to be an adult who is going to care about kids and see how I can make things better for them. And so a coach needs to ask, why am I coaching? What am I doing this for? And if it starts with me and not with the kids, you're probably never going to get to what I just described. But if it starts with it starts with their experience. Actually, it gives me the right to push them to be the very best they can be, because as I push them, they're going to recognize my interest is in them. And I think the hard part of that, Kareem, is it's easy to give lip service to that. It's really hard to say no. When push comes to shove, I'm going to put their experience first, which means I might at times have to take criticism from a parent, take criticism from somebody else, because I valued them as a person over when I put my arm around my kids and say, hey, listen, I'll take responsibility with you, instead of blasting that kid who made the mistake. He already feels bad. He doesn't need me to reinforce that I didn't win. It doesn't matter if I win. And I've won hundreds and hundreds of games. I've lost hundreds and hundreds of games. But at 51, if I could pour into those in their 20s and 30s and 40s, or when these players come back to you and say, Coach, thank you for teaching me this, and that's what they're remembering, not the championships or the successes or the amazing goals, If we could somehow give people a glimpse into that, and I think that's part of what you're doing in your work is bringing attention to this, especially at these formative years, 8 to 14. The number that I think that was given is how many kids drop out at the age of 14. And it's a staggering number. If we know they're dropping out that rate, why wouldn't we want to develop them for something more than soccer? Maybe more would stay in the beautiful game, but even more importantly, they would look back someday with their own kids and say, I want them to experience what I experienced. And that's where I have a deep fear of the beautiful game in America, because we've put an undue amount of pressure on kids in their formative years rather than
Yeah,
about their development.
absolutely. Do you have any plans to help change this with, any programs out there, U.S. Youth Soccer or with United Soccer, United
So,
States Soccer Federation, or anything like that?
so we've begun to make some, Dave and I have both begun to make some inroads into some soccer clubs, into some of the seeing where this level can go to. There's some things recently in Pennsylvania that actually have come to the forefront that would align close enough with what I just shared with you, that it's gaining more attention. Now, I'd like to think it's not because it's business, and so if we lose kids, we lose money. I would like to think it's because we want to make a lasting impact. But regardless, we're trying to find traction, and my voice is one voice, but there are more voices who have a greater platform, and that's why joining you for things like this, every chance I get to share, what do you want your legacy to be 30 years from now? And that message is starting to find some traction, so I'm hoping it will find more.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, the beautiful game is so powerful. It brings people together.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
no matter where you come from, what skin color you are, what language you speak, you put that ball in front of us, and we want to play. We're passing it around. We're communicating. We're having fun. Um, that's amazing.
Can
So
I say something to that? What
yeah,
if it was the beautiful game that could bring our nation and our world together? Like, we have so much division in our world, so much hate, so much whatever. What if it could be the beautiful game that would unite us around kids and young people, um, finding that common ground, which, by the way, that's a lot of what I've done in my faith journey. We go places in the world and we roll out a ball, and all of a sudden we all speak the same language. It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I'm all for peace. I can't really speak to those things worldwide and why things are the way they are, but that's a bit too political for me, so I couldn't speak on that. I stay out of politics.
You and me both, my friend.
Yes, sir. So, and learning more about professional soccer club ownership and how political it is how the government and the city are behind these clubs, and obviously for good reasons, and supporting the clubs. It's you got to create those relationships, those political, those city relationships, so on and so forth. So it's really cool. You mentioned before we started recording that you've really focused your coaching career on the U.S. and not traveling anywhere outside of the U.S. to coach. Why haven't you um, wanting to go out of the U.S. and coach? And what experiences what benefits do you think you have gone from just staying focused and staying consistent within the U.S.? And if you could just share a little bit in regards to, like, if you just stayed in one specific area or you moved around the U.S. a bit.
Yep. So my experience in the U.S. is Wisconsin and Minnesota in the Midwest, which are shorter soccer seasons, obviously because of the weather, and then heavily here on the East Coast, Pennsylvania primarily. Um, I've had the opportunity to travel some and did a number of, again, I mentioned my faith, a number of soccer mission type experiences, soccer type with my college teams. We did travel abroad, played a number of games both in the Caribbean, Scotland, Mexico. That's actually where I fell in love somewhat with the beautiful game, was on a couple of trips to Mexico during my college years and playing with players that all of a sudden is like, whoa, we think we're pretty good here in the U.S. And all of a sudden finding out kids younger than us, that the trip we took to England with my club team just before the pandemic. So I've had those experiences. I never had a desire personally to live in those places because the game, probably for me, Kareem, was secondary to the impact. And so I had built relationships in the places I was in the US, and I really wanted to take some of the best of the international flavor and bring that into the settings I was in. Probably when I would have pursued it at 23, I probably got really close to pursuing it and then got married. The first child came along, and you start to settle, and not settle in a negative way, settle in putting down roots and put down roots, and then decided, okay, where can I make the greatest impact where I am? But deeply grateful. Every place I've gone in the world, rolling out a ball has allowed us to speak their language, whether we could speak their language or not.
Yeah. How old were you when you started coaching? And what license, what certificates or licensings do you
Yeah.
have?
So I walked through getting up to a B license in my coaching, but I didn't pursue a lot of that because I wasn't looking to climb. I think if I was to say to somebody in my 20s, had I gone back again, I think I would have pursued that much more. It was really in my 30s I started to say, you know what, I should probably credential some of what I've been doing for the last 10 to 15 years. And I would go, if I had to go back again and I had turned it into my professional career. As you know, right now in the season I'm in, I'm full time in a job and coaching youth soccer on the side and trying to be an ambassador for the game. And rather than carving it out as a full time profession, but I would be heartily saying to young coaches, pursue the coaching license, pursue everything you can. I keep learning from the game, but then pursue as much of the credentialing. And a lot of that just had to do the calling I felt in my life. The game was a part of it, but you can hear it come out of me. My life calling is people, and specifically kids.
Yeah. What age did you start coaching?
I started coaching high school. I was my first job, 22 years old, coaching high school soccer at a small private school, and that I had graduated from. So it was fun to go back. And wow, those years, I think I was ambitious and I was energetic. I probably would go back and change a lot of things. Of probably inserted myself far too much and didn't let the players play nearly enough back then.
Mm, yeah, that's super important. So you started coaching around 16 years old or younger?
18 years old. 18 years
18.
old.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I've coached, like, I don't have any coaching certificates, and I don't really believe in certificates per se, unless you are, again, what you're saying, climbing up the ladder where you need them.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I've coached. I think my first coaching experience was, I'm Canadian born, so I think my first coaching experience was in Canada a little bit. Like, I've coached not consistently, like here and there. I've coached in France, not speaking the same language, but being able to throw the ball. And where else have I coached? I've coached in U.S. In Florida, Naples, with Naples United FC. So one of the things I really enjoy when coaching. Well, before I share that, you mentioned inserting yourself too much. I think I do that very well. I want I always tell kids every time I'm coaching with them, I say, I want you guys to have fun, but work hard, and then have fun. And I like to, I played myself for all the way from grassroots to semi-pro. So, I know the process. I like to get them warmed up, get some touches on the ball, so on and so forth. And I always like to end with, like, the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, have fun, right?
Yep.
Have fun.
Great.
And I remember the last time I coached, the parents really appreciated that freedom to play, and they're like, "Wow, that was my first time coaching there," and they were super. They really enjoyed that. But one of the experiences that I really like is watching the future grow up right in front of you, and seeing the kids just have fun, and, like, this is the future. What has been your most memorable experience that you really enjoyed coaching?
Wow. 30 plus years of coaching to boil it down to one would almost be impossible for me. I think the greatest joy in the game has been watching players discover and see the improvement. Kids who struggled, to have any type of good touch on the ball, and even things we would do because we emphasize a lot of technical work, and all of a sudden to see them wanting to go work on their own and coming back week, 2 month later and all of a sudden you can see their game just flourishing. I've never gotten tired of watching growth and improvement of players play. There's been so many moments that are highlights to me, but they're highlights because those players are still connected into my life. So winning championships and some of those different dynamics are special because of where the young men or the young ladies are today. And I've tried really hard in my coaching to not compare teams. Every year is my favorite. This team is my favorite team because of the ones I'm coaching now. And every moment we're going to enjoy it, kind of the way you said. I want them to love the game. I want them to love each other, and I want them to play free. And I think for me, in my 50s now, it's just really enjoyable to not have to capture a moment because I'm living in the moment. And that's what I'd be saying to every coach out there, like live in the moment and love those players you have right now. And don't coach if you're in a college setting. Don't coach for the end of the season. Coach for today. If you're in a club, just coach every practice, every game. And those are the memorable. You'll make so many memories and so many moments that you'll struggle to answer the great question you just asked me.
I can imagine after 3 decades, like you've definitely spent more than 10,000 hours within the game coaching and have found your sweet spot with coaching. So that's pretty cool. Um, could we speak about some like about money wise in regards to obviously back in the day to now are two different times. You know, as things progress, it becomes harder and harder, and maybe coaches may need to get certain certificates, so on and so forth. But I want to speak directly towards the dollar amount. When you were coaching full time, like, was there ever a time where you were coaching full time? That was
There
your only
was.
job.
Yep. So I was coaching a little bit at the college level. I'll be embarrassed if you ask me how much I was making, but I was a full time coach for about six years at the college level.
Understood. So, in regard, so any for any future coaches watching now, is there any advice to like making a career out of it and like making some good coin?
Yeah, I think defining reality again is so critical in this to realize that just like playing at the next level, coach, we see these guys, what they're making at the highest levels in any sport, and obviously the heavy international population of how that even affects U.S. soccer is very significant. And so, to me, it's carving out: do you have a love and a passion for it? In a way that would say, if I made less, would I still want to do this? So I don't have a lot of advice because I never made a lot of money in it, but I found a great calling and a great joy in impacting through it. And you can. There's lots of coaches at various levels at the college level who are making, like you said, a good coin enough to live on. If you're saying, "Boy, I really want to hit it big," you just need to understand you're going to be in that fraction, that tiny percentage. And so, don't set all your sights on it. Chase it if that's what you want, but chase impact as you go there.
Yeah, that's great advice. And usually, most coaches are like they're like former professional soccer players that played at a really high level. I think that's like a criteria that they look at for coaches coaching in like MLS, for example, so on and so forth. Um, with saying that, what are your plans now for coaching? Do you see yourself coaching for the next 10 years?
I hope my wife doesn't listen to this podcast because she's, if I might answer wrongly, I said about 7, 8 years ago, I'm going to stop coaching when my players want to win more than I do. And I'm still coaching. And I'm kind of at that point right now. I still really like to win on the scoreboard. And then I want to win, as I referenced on the podcast with Dave, that second scoreboard, which is where these kids are at 10 years from now. But I have no plans. My daughter graduates high school, and I've coached her club team. So I don't want to miss watching my kids play college soccer. I have two playing college soccer right now. But the plan is to keep coaching or maybe get into some officiating. I want to keep giving back to the beautiful game. How can I give back best? Which likely includes some level of coaching because that's where I'm gifted and pouring it out. So I thought 30 was going to be enough. Maybe we'll chase 40 years, 1 year at a time.
For sure. Um, how do you feel about Messi being in the U.S.?
I love it. So my son, I got to tell you this story if I can real quick. My son, um, who is a really good Division III college soccer player. So I want to emphasize Division III. He's been Player of the Year a couple times here in the conference, they're in near Philadelphia. But he was really small, smallest player on the field, all the way through till about 15, 16 years old. And incredible, good touch on the ball. But as you would quickly know where I'm going, Messi was his all-time favorite player because he just maximized himself. He watched Messi. He watched the way he understood the game, played the game, his brilliance. And my son is left-footed as well, primarily. And so it just was, we grew up cheering and watching Messi in every possible way we could. I just think it's amazing for the sport and for men like yourself. I think sports, soccer, the beautiful game may now be here in America in a way that probably no other player. I think people thought, a few years ago, Beckham might bring that level, but Messi's brought it to a new level, and I think it's great for the future of the game at every level because of what he's brought. So there's full disclosure. I love it.
Yeah, huge impact. Did you get a chance to watch the David Beckham documentary on Netflix?
I did. Yes.
Amazing.
Outstanding. Yep, absolutely.
2026 is around the corner, not 2.5, let's just say 2 years from now. This is even bigger than Messi at this point. World Cup, because we're getting players from all over the world to come here to the US, Canada, and Mexico. What do you think this is going to do for soccer on all levels?
Well, I'm going to say this to my new friend, Kareem, Canadian-born. I think soccer is rapidly going to become one of the big four. And I think hockey could get bumped. I don't think basketball or football will. Baseball's waning a little bit in the United States, even though it's America's pastime. I really believe that soccer will be talked about in that big four. And I think 2026 is I think it's going to crescendo there and then keep momentum going from that point. What Messi's brought has, I think, sped up and expanded the impact of what it's going to mean in the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's so crazy. I'm so excited for what the future has to come. I'm currently, focusing on being in the US full time for what we're working on in regards to club ownership. But I'm seeing pro clubs being popped out left, right, and center. US Soccer Foundation doing all these, non-for-profits, building these small soccer fields on concrete and stuff like that. So soccer is booming in the US.
Yeah.
Would saying that was there anything that I missed or that you wanted to share?
I think I would just say to you, I've got almost 30 years of life on you. Keep doing what you're doing. And it's not, you're in a great time in your life journey. To the young coaches, entrepreneurs, people who love the beautiful game, like jump in and make a career out of it, make a living out of it. Just impact lives all along the way. Your platform of impact, because of what we just discussed the last 5 minutes, is exploding. So leverage that impact, and I'm cheering you on. I mean, that's really, for me, I'm in a season of life where I'm wishing you and every person pouring into it success and favor and blessing and impact. Our world needs entrepreneurs like you who are working hard and want to make an impact. And so keep doing it.
Thank you. I do want to ask you about one more thing. You found, I'm not too sure if I'm saying this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. One Life.
Yes.
Could you just share a little bit about that with our audience and what that is?
Thank you. So I lead a gap year program called One Life. It is a 9-month program that we basically come alongside students to help them own their faith, grow in their. We say that the way we say it is God's more interested in who you're becoming than where you're going or what you're doing. And then we do that by helping them figure out their career path and helping them live in tight community. And we travel. So we like to say the world is our classroom. So it's a gap year experience that I'm leading to really spend 9 months intentionally pouring into high school graduates, helping them figure out what's next. Is it university? Is it a trade? Is it what is that career path? And then connecting that to the mission they were created for. I love it. You can tell, obviously, it resonates with all I do in coaching. And I appreciate you letting me just say a word about what I get paid to do in my life.
For sure. And for the viewers, how do they? I'll have everything linked in the description, guys, so you guys can check it out. But could you just shout out the website?
Sure will. OneLifePath.org.
Guys, go check it out. If that aligns with where you are in your life at the moment right now, I'd highly recommend for you guys to check it out. Well, and Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
It's been my privilege. Thanks so much.